Seven Atzliach. So we're gonna start, and we start always with a little bit of a few steps backtrack. What did we do last week was a pretty heated discussion towards the end of the class. It was feisty. It was feisty.
Can you recap it all?
I'll just give a little bit of
The feisty part?
no, I'm not going back to the feisty part. It was a lot of opinions around the table. Okay, so the last point he made here is that if the Haredim would have participated in the early years of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, remind me your name? Sonia. Okay, good. If the Haredim would have participated in the initial steps of settling the land and at the start of the Zionist movement, settling of the land, then the landscape, the potential of the landscape in Israel spiritually would have been different, and he's taking issue with people, with Haredim who say we don't want to cooperate with people who are non-Shomer Shabbos. This is a holy land, and you're bringing treif into the land. You're bringing non-Shomer Shabbos, and this is what you want Israel to look like. You're not somebody I want to cooperate with. But he laments and he quotes Sam Sofer and he quotes other people. And really, he quotes many sources that say, where do we even get that idea that for a mitzvah you can't participate, you can be an influence. Look at the influence that you can be in bringing Torah into the land, and then you're leaving it in the hands of the non-Shomer Shabbos people, and then you're complaining that it's non-Shomer Shabbos. So, of course, it's going to look like that because they're the ones who are doing it according to their ideology, their understanding. And he says it lacks responsibility. That's one point that he made. And he backs it up. So now we're going to move forward. Okay, the dinglings in this house so lovely between the clock and the doorbell. It's cute. It's soft. It's gentle. Esther, I'm so happy you're here. You're good. I just finished saying what we learned last week, and we're just going to start with where we're holding now. So subsection 13 of chapter 3. Chapter 3. In the English, it's page 247. Okay, so in this major, he's saying, okay, what do you do with the fact that you had absolutely big Gdolim, like undisputed Gdolei Israel? These are giant rabbis who knew a lot of Torah, who were very pure, very close to Hashem, obviously, care a lot about Am Yisrael. And they're saying, don't participate. And so he's going to continue with that theme, fleshing out how we could understand their view and bringing us into another perspective. When we're going to learn about Eliyahu Navi, we're going to learn about Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel. We're going to learn a lot of, because he brings a lot of examples from these people, from those matzavim, from those situations when there was machloket in Am Yisrael, and how they resolved it, and what was the process by which they resolved conflicts, and maybe we can apply, and then he takes it and applies it to the present day. Yes, Zionism, no Zionism, do we participate, do we not participate? Very fascinating stuff. Basically, he says that he starts off the section by saying, listen, we're in dire straits here. We're being killed right, left, and center. And the ones who are not being killed, the whole world is upside down. They don't know they don't, like, everything is taken away from them. It's not a life. And so then he says, Pashut u'varur she'ein halacha kehane k'doshei elyonim Shehayu neged Yishuv. So in this present situation, where the Jewish people are in a Holocaust, and nobody wants to receive them as refugees, and they're being left to
stay where they are.
stay there where they are and die. It's pashut u'beru. It's very simple and very clear that ein halacha kehai nikdosh elinim, that the halacha is not like the ones who are against the Yishuv. In present day, when the Jews have nowhere to go, but there is a Yishuv in Eretz Yisrael, and you're going to still hold out, we're not going to go because they're not Shomer Shabbos. Meanwhile, the Goyim are killing you. Obviously, that logic, that the Das Torah, the halacha that said don't go under the situations before, don't apply today. You can't bring that argument anymore, he says. Rak halacha kehagdolim shayu ba'ad ha'yishuv ha'binyan. So who are we supposed to follow? The Gdolim that says, yes, the Yishuv of Eretz Yisrael in present day. Why is he saying this? Because what's the alternative for the Jew, right? And now he brings, to back up this point, he brings up from the Kedushas Levi. Kedushas Levi, of course, is Reb Levi Yitzchak Abraditchev, the Ohev Israel, Sanegoran Shel Yisrael. He explains like this. He raises a question. Many times in Talmud, there's a machloket. A dispute between rabbis, and they don't know what the psak halacha is. So then they say teku. What does teku mean? Tishbi Eretz kushot uvayot. To resolve this dispute, we have to wait for Eliyahu and Navi to come and tell us what the Torah way is under those situations when they can't come to a psak halacha. And then the Kedushas Levi asks, why Eliyahu and Navi? If we're going to be in a time where Eliyahu and Navi is here, we're going to be in a time when Moshe Rabbeinu is also going to be here because Tchias HaMesim. Why not go straight to the source? Why not go to Moshe Rabbeinu? Why go to Eliyahu and Navi? You get the question? And he answers something unbelievable. ובהשקפה הראשונה יש להקשות. הזה יהיה אחר ביאת גואל במהרה בינינו, okay? So why not go to Moshe Rabbeinu? ואמר, בפלוגתא דרש"י, אך פשר דבר זה, the explanation of this, the Kedushas Levi says, דהנה כתב בסדר הדורות, בהפלוגתא דרש"י ורבינו תם בעניין תפילין. He brings an example of what they said in terms of, there's Tefillin Rashi and there's Tefillin Rabbeinu Tam, and this is grandfather and grandson, and a difference of opinion. The Rashi Zal, and he says Rashi is more like the hasaga, the attainment, the understanding of Rashi is more like a Moshe Rabbeinu attainment. And Rabbeinu Tam, who's a grandson of Rashi, is more the hasaga of a later generation is not living in the presence of a Moshe Rabbeinu. Rashi's understanding is of a Moshe Rabbeinu. Rabbeinu Tam, in the generation that he lived, is something different. So he offered something different to the generation that he was living in and understanding. Rabbeinu Tam lo ishkiach al zeh ve'amar lo, and Rabbeinu said, listen, my grandfather was a Gevald. He was like a Moshe Rabbeinu. His sagas in Torah. And he said, I'm not going to be to capitulate to that kind of. I'm not mashgiach. I'm not going to give in to that. על זה ואמרנו שכבר נתן לנו התורה ובידינו להורות כפי הוראת שכולנו בתורה, הוראת שכלנו בתורה הקדושה. And Rabbeinu Tam says, the Torah was already given to us. It came out of Shamayim. Moshe Rabbeinu schlepped it out of Shamayim and gave it to us. Once it's ours, in our hand, it's up to every generation according to their intellect and understanding, of course, based on principles of interpretation, to understand what Hashem wants from us, given the changing of the times, given the guidelines that we're not reform here, we're not reconstruction, we're not reconstructing anything. But there are guidelines and rules of interpretation, and within those guidelines of interpretations, every generation, there's a certain flexibility in terms of halacha of how to understand it. Rabbeinu Tam understood himself to be in a different generation than his grandfather Rashi. So how was that an answer to our question? He brings to further, remember the question, what the question is? How come we're going to Eliyahu Navi to resolve unresolved disputes and not Moshe Rabbeinu? Okay. So he gave an example of Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam, and Rabbeinu Tam said, my grandfather, with all due respect, but he was like a Moshe Rabbeinu, and I'm like, I'm not a Moshe Rabbeinu, we're not living in the time of Moshe Rabbeinu. And my understanding, according to the tefillin of what the batim and what the parshas that go in, it's a different. What's the example? How?
So where you go?
The Rambam, but how is that how? Okay, give me an example of how it plays itself out with the Rambam.
You don't go to, the argument is you don't go to Eliyahu Navi, you go to Moshe.
No, but the answer, but we go to Eliyahu Navi, we don't go to Moshe. Right.
They said you go to Rambam, which is even further out.
Further out
Further
from
in.
more modern. Yeah, so that's what every generation comes up with
Where are being Tom's Philip and not Rashi's?
they do, if they do, because they're not going to passel Moshe Rabbeinu, they're not going to passel Rashi, they're not going to just they're not going to do away with so they do both just in case out of respect. But I assume that he did both. The halacha is, I don't know, we have a rabbi in that other room over there, but from what I understand is that the bracha, because it's a dispute, Rabbeinu Tam, Rashi, the bracha is on Rashi, and people who do Rabbeinu Tam, they don't say a bracha in case that it's a bracha levatala. You don't do extra. You're not supposed to put on tefillin twice. The mitzvah is once a day. Something like that. I mean, it's an involved discussion.
Then the majority of people never put on tefillin, or Mashiach comes, will not put on tefillin properly.
If they only nobody only puts Rabbeinu. No, because it's Das Torah. They're protected. If the most of the tzibur does something, it's hashgacha min hashamayim that's the way it's supposed to be done. It has a stamp of approval from Shemaim. It's a principle. Okay, so now, given all that, he goes into what's up with the machloket of Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel. How does he bring Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel? We understand that Beit Shammai was more strict than Hillel. So why is the halacha like Hillel? Why is it not like Shammai? Why does Hillel win out all the time? Because he was noted to this. He was leaning towards always to the side of Chesed, and the rabbis, the Chachamim of his time, understood that that's what the generation needs. They don't need the hard line of a Shammai. They need the soft line, the more Chesedic way of approach with Chesed. Okay, despite the fact that Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim chaim, והנה מי יכול להבחין זאת באיזה מידה צריך זה העולם להתנהג. Now, who decides for the generation which approach the generation needs? The rabbis, the gdolim of that present generation will decide how much they can handle. Right? There's a tzorchei tzibur. There's a not to allow the tzibur to bring michshol to the tzibur. You don't bring about strict stands of things that most of the population can't handle. So even if it's more correct, this happens in kashrut sometimes.
Well, we used to fast 2 days on Yom Kippur. You know that?
I don't remember. We fasted 2 days.
Yes, and the people couldn't handle it. It was too difficult for 2 days.
Okay.
Story.
Or maybe it's kind of somehow it's reverberating in my brain somewhere. Something is familiar. It's not Tisha B'Av. It's Yom Kippur.
Yom Kippur was a major.
Okay,
issue.
there you go. So you do things that the tzibur can handle, and who's going to decide what the tzibur is going to handle? The living rabbis of that generation, living. And
It's a shame. It doesn't happen. Nothing happens.
doesn't happen. What? Yeah, it's a big problem.
our generation, the rabbis are a bit sleepy.
Yeah, no, it's true.
But our generation,
Go ahead.
Paradim and Ashkenazim both are different.
Well, the differences are minor. We all keep Shabbos, we all keep kosher, we all keep the holidays. It's like we eat rice or don't eat rice on pay. I mean, it's insignificant. The differences are not great, not significant. Getting up for slichas all of Elul at 4 o'clock in the morning or not. Okay, it's not it doesn't change the essence of Judaism, all of these little things. Okay.
Can I ask an outside question?
Yeah.
Or you want to?
I want to finish the point, but ask you a question, then I'll see if I'll answer now or not.
A
Yeah.
question. There's so many learned women, rabbits, and so many matan, pardes, this, that. Why don't they get together and put their foot down and do something about Agunot?
Okay, I think you should go to Pardes and Matan and all of those places and ask them. Good
She
question.
probably did.
Yeah.
You probably did already.
I did that higher than that, and it didn't work.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
Elle. Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry to bother you. Ginny can't get into the meeting. Have you got a thing there to let her in?
No, I don't have any.
No. She said the link's not working, which is strange. It's the same one.
Well, Judy is on and you're on.
Yeah.
Tell her to refresh her browser and start again.
Okay.
I mean, I sent her the I sent her the thingy. Hold on.
Yeah. She said it's, she's got, because I sent her my link as well, and she said she can't get in.
So it's her device. It's not clear
Yeah.
you're on.
Yeah.
So I'll share the recording with her. Tell her.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So coming back to our point, how does all of this explain the hard line of the Haredi masters against the Yishuv, and then like how is he bringing in the Kedusha Slavi with the Rabbi Rashi and Rabbi Tam and Beishamai and Beit Hillel, and why do we go to Eliyahu Navi and we don't go to Moshe? And what does this have to do with the question of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael? Yes, we participate. No, we participate. He says, fascinating, that since we listen to the rabbis of the generation to decide das Torah for the generation because they have their finger on the pulse and they're part of the world that the generation is living in and they can see what they can handle or not. So rabbis of previous generations who held a certain position that clearly present day living generation can't handle, we don't follow previous generations' opinions. We go with the opinions of the present generation, and all of those, everyone that he quoted up until now in the previous chapters that held the hard line of we don't participate with the Yishuv in Eretz Yisrael because of X, Y, and Z for whatever reasons they had, especially the position of we don't participate with Chilunim, says and then he says that clearly doesn't apply in a time where we have nowhere else to go and they're killing us. We don't hold by their opinion. We hold by Gdolim of those that say, yes, Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. And all of those Gdolim, including his Rebbe, he was a Munkach Chassid, and he loved them, and they're all very, very holy men. But with all due respect, they're not part of our generation. So why do we go to Eliyahu Navi? Because what do we know about Eliyahu Navi? He lives in every generation. He ascended to Shamayim, never really died. He can appear anywhere. But Moshe Rabbeinu, once he left this world, he's in Shamayim and he's kind of out of touch. This is what he says. And he quotes sources that kind of talk about this. That Moshe Rabbeinu, when he's going to come back in Tchias HaMeitim, he's going to be like lacking the perspective of all the generations that lived from the time that he lived to the time that he's coming back into this world. I mean, I personally have questions about that, but we're going with the flow here. But Eliyahu Navi, he's invited to every bris milah. He shows up and does favors for people and saves people. He has been around from generation to generation in an unbroken way. So he can be the one that's going to resolve disputes when it's time to resolve the disputes when he's going to come, because he'll have the perspective of all generations. He'll know how to handle it. Isn't that fascinating?
The problem on a stone and leave it there.
Who? What?
There is the answer of waiting for Eliyahu Navi
Yeah.
means putting the problem on a stone and leaving it there.
No, but no. Esther, sometimes you really it's you have to be intellectually honest in terms of interpreting Torah. There are rules and guidelines. It's also Torah Moshe Sinai. How to interpret halacha. It's not a free for all. It's like I said, it's not reform. We're not reconstructing anything. There are clear guidelines, and sometimes because of the generations, their shichacha came into what was the halacha Moshe Sinai. How are we supposed to actually do it? This all the disputes came into, historically speaking, in the time of the Tkufa of the Zugot, what's called Zugot. There's Beit Shammai, there's Beit Hillel, there's Shmaya, there's Avtalion, right? Up until then, there were like individuals passing on the Masorah from one generation to the next. At a certain point historically, in the Mishnah, you already see, and you're familiar with Pirkei Avot, there's a Tkufa of difference of opinions. Why don't they know? Why the difference of opinions? Because of the unfolding of the generations and the weakening of the generations, that you can understand it this way, and you can understand. And they're both rooting themselves logically and honestly, according to proper Torah interpretations, that you have to be a Torah scholar to understand what that is. How to paskan halacha, how to answer a tshuva in an unbroken chain of Masorah all the way back to Moshe Rabbeinu, according to the guidelines of how. So it's not just like my opinion or his opinion, or it's just people's opinions. And sometimes it just came to, you have a good point. I see that your logic in coming to halacha follows the line of proper interpretation. You're within the Masorah of how to do it. And the one who's holding a different opinion also has that. And so teku. Like, what do? You both have amazing points and rooted in proper methods of interpretation.
You just said it.
No, so we
According
need.
to the rabbis of the time.
But
according
what
to-
happens if you don't? What happens if you have rabbis of the time that are in dispute with each other? There's a machlokas. But those machlokas are more from the Gemara. This is a term from Gemara Teku. Tish bi'avot teretz. You don't follow what I'm saying?
I'm following very well,
So-
but you
But what?
I don't want to argue because I'm taking your time.
Just say it really quickly, and I'll see if I'll follow it or not.
That the halacha goes according to the times.
The halacha go
When
according to
there's a dispute,
when there's a dispute.
and
Who do you paskin for?
Yeah.
Who do you paskin by?
according to the rabbis of the time.
Yeah, but what if the rabbis of the time are in dispute with each other? They're not all holding the same opinion.
But then you go according to the time, to what's happening
The-
in
the-
reality at the time.
Yeah, yeah,
To
but
ease
it's up
people,
to
to ease the people.
it's up. Okay.
You said.
Yes, that's what I said, but it's more complicated now because you have difference of opinions of how to handle it also. I know. Oh no. Okay. Let's go back to this now and how he's bringing this whole argument into the Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. So just to follow what he said, and then we can argue with him also, okay? There were rabbis before the Holocaust that said, we don't participate. The Holocaust, he says, changed everything. And we can't hold by the opinion of rabbis before the Holocaust because that rabbis changed everything. And now, because the situation is so what it is, we have no choice but to follow the Gdolim that say it's okay to go to Eretz Yisrael, it's okay to participate with Yishuv in it, even if it means cooperating with non-Shomer Shabbos people. He says clearly that that's the rabbis who held that opinion. That is the zeitgeist of the time. That is the spirit of the times that calls for that interpretation. for that call. That's all he's saying. So far, so good? Yeah? Okay. And so why is it Eliyahu? And he brings the whole point by that's why we wait for Eliyahu Navi to resolve disputes in the Gemara and the poskin of the Gemara time that we don't know what to do with, and not Moshe Rabbeinu, because Eliyahu Navi will understand the unfolding of the times. Okay. Now, to summarize this paragraph, to this whole section, I have here in the last paragraph of the section. Okay, that's what I'm reading here. It's a nice sikum. Hamura midivrei rabotenu zal. What gets lifted up, what comes out from everything that he quoted so far from the rabbis, שצדיק אחד שפסק איזה פסק, ואחר כך עלה לשמיים, that let's say there was a tzaddik that came up with a certain psak, and then he went up to Shamayim. He died. ונשתנו העניינים וסדר עולם, and meanwhile, the Seder Olam, what's happening in the world changed completely, and everything, like it's different issues that the generations following him have to deal with, and the issues that his generation had to deal with. ולפי מעמד הדור, כאשר עתה יוקשה מאוד לאחוז בשיטת ההלכה של צדיק ההוא, שהחמיר בעודו בחרימותו. And according to the subsequent generation that is present now, yuksha me'od le'choz, it would be very difficult to hold on to a shita, a way of shita, a system, a halachic system that is very severe, that was appropriate for the tzaddik of his generation before him, when he was alive. It's not appropriate anymore. But if we'll hold by the shita of other tzaddikim that didn't have that strict view, much good can come of this to that generation. Much good will come of this for that generation. As kefi dat shnei gdolei olam. Yitzmach mizeh tova el hador as kefi dat shnei gdolei olam. So according to the gdolei olam, then much good will come from this. Yan shatzadik asher echmir eino od baolam. The tzaddik that was stringent in the previous, because like the one who died, he's no longer in the world, and he doesn't understand the needs of that generation. Because he's not with us. As ein halachat motot, so you can't hold by the halacha like him. Im ken lefi ze bizmanenu shenaseh hashiruri hagdola b'Yisrael ve'en makom od lisher begola. And so now just do the calculation. We are in a situation where we cannot stay anymore in Galus. Clearly, nobody wants us. Clearly, everybody hates us. They want the death. So what are you going to do with that? Stay till your death in Galus and say, no, we're going to hold by the opinion of a rabbi, of a gadol preacher who says, no, we don't go. Clearly, it's not the same situation. Pshita she'ein lachush l'divrei hagdolim. Pshita, it's very simple that we don't have to be afraid of not following the position of the previous generation who died, who held the strict view. Shehayu neged Yishuv, that were against the settlement in Israel. V'rak halacha k'elo gdolim shehayu ba'ad Yishuv. But the halacha should be only like those gdolim that said that were for the Yishuv. Ki hashiya sha'a tzricha lachach, because the hour is asking for it. V'ulaim hayu b'chaim itanu v'hayu ro'im atzavenu ata gam hem be'atzmam hayu maskimim lechach. And it's very possible that those Gdolim of previous generation that held a hard line, if they would be living in our generation, very possible that they would paskin like, you'd say, of course we have to leave. So where did this land in you? We're finished just a section. We're going to go to a section number 14 in a minute, but I want to know where this landed within you. What do you do with this?
Well, today we're in a situation that people compare what happened to the Holocaust. Compare the attack of November
Okay.
on the Holocaust
Okay.
to the Holocaust. So that may also bring rise to different interpretations of what the role of the Haredim should be in Eretz Yisrael. Now they're raising all the questions of the army and
Right. Okay, I'm not touching that one.
How does
But
one-
yes,
How does one decide when it's time to? Well, the Rebbeim decide when it's time to reevaluate and
right.
make these decisions.
Yeah, interesting times. Hashem should send us good leaders with eitzot nechonot, eitzot tovot, for the benefit all of Am Yisrael, b'shem Kol Yisrael.
It
Okay,
shows how flexible halacha is.
Yeah.
That's what I'm seeing from it. Which is why it's called halacha.
a way to go.
Yeah, actually, it changes. See, yeah, yeah.
How it changes.
Yeah.
So it depends on the route.
Yeah. Good point.
Okay, so now we're in section 14. Let's see what we're gonna do here.
And when
Goulash
was this written?
during the Holocaust. He died. He didn't make it out.
What a shame that it wasn't followed.
That he wasn't followed? Many people learn this book. Not everybody. Not everybody. But he yeah. The Tilumi obviously picked this up major. The Haredim not so much.
That's what I meant.
Yeah. Okay, we'll see. We'll see. Meanwhile, we're learning his way of thinking and how he came to his opinions.
There are many Haredim who, yes, very much so. But even then, before the war.
Right. Outside of the discussion of army or not army.
Yeah.
Outside of that.
You should know this land.
Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, of course.
Yeah. I know from my family.
Right. Okay. All right. So the next section, section 14, he keeps quoting the Minchas Elazar. Minchas Elazar was the one who went full out against the concept that it is okay to come to Eretz Yisrael before Mashiach. And he held, if you remember, he was the one who understood the Rambam, not including the mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael as part of his 613, as proof that it's not a mitzvah that's applicable through all generations. And we need to wait for Mashiach for it to obligate us to come back. And the Ramban said, no, it's part of, it's one of it's one of the 613. But then he gave understandings of why, do you remember this? Why didn't the Rambam include Yishuv Eretz Yisrael in his 613? Because it's a mitzvah kolelet, all of Torah is based on it, and it's like saying, thou shalt be a Jew. There's no mitzvah to say to be Jewish. You're Jewish. It's like there's no way. So Eretz Yisrael is in that category of Eretz Yisrael. So much Torah can't be done. All of Torah. Almost all of Torah
Say that both ways.
cannot be done other than in Eretz Yisrael. What?
Because it emphasizes it more, because it's not a separate mitzvah. But on the other hand, you can look at it both ways.
It is, no, it's both. It's a
It's
separate,
both.
it's a mitzvah, but it's not included in the 613 because it's so
Right.
basic.
Right, because it's so basic.
Because it's
But
so
also
basic,
on the other way.
because it incorporates all of Torah. You don't have all of the things related to the temple service, which is hundreds and just alone, just the temple of Beit HaMikdash, and that's on Eretz Yisrael, and all the Trumot and Mesrot and everything like that. It's all mitzvot tluyot ba'aretz. There's so much that could only be done in Eretz Yisrael and only in Eretz
But
Yisrael.
by accentuating it as a separate mitzvah,
Mm.
you're heightening it on the other hand. So you can look
No,
at
but you're
both
making
ways.
it a mitzvah amongst mitzvahs. But
Yes.
he's saying it's the heading for all of Torah.
So
'cause
that's
you
the
can't think-
argument, which is a stronger way of looking at it.
Okay.
I was going to a share of the very esteemed rabbi in London,
Hmm.
and he said that there is, I don't want to mention names, but he said that there's a very important movement that the rabbi says, do not extend extend your homes because you shouldn't go on Aliyah. I said, why? Because Israel is not, it's Tameh.
Even now, somebody is saying that.
Yeah.
Nebuchadnezzar, I feel sorry for him. I have to say, I feel sorry for him. I have to feel
And
sorry.
I said, why don't we go there and clean it? Clean it.
Yeah,
Make it a hall.
that's right. See, that was his argument. You're sitting there complaining to me, so bring your kedusha and metaher it. Okay. All right. So he's bringing up this Minchas Eliezer that says, okay, we have to wait for Mashiach, and he says anyone, he was full out against the movement, and he says the final Geula will come through a miracle and not through nature, not through natural means. Natural means government and how it's unfolded. And anyone, as a matter of fact, he says, whoever says that it will be dependent on natural means, ways of going about acquiring the land, and not in a miraculous way, he's kofir. He's what was a kofir? He's a
Heretic. A heretic.
He's a heretic. He's a heretic in the coming of Mashiach, chas v'shalom. And he says all of his books are filled with this idea. He said, but it's easy to argue against that point. He says, I don't understand how he can have such an opinion so strong, since we already know from Orach Chaim HaKadosh and others that he brought up in previous chapters, that there's two ways Mashiach can come. Be'ita achishena, in its proper time, which means if it's in its proper time, it's going to be done over slowly, like Teva works slow. You put a seed in the ground until it becomes a tree. It takes a long time for it to develop in a normal process of things. Nature takes time. But achishana means, but it can also happen just like this. And what will decide if it's be'ita or be'achishana? Im zachu, achishana. Im lo zachu, be'ita. If the generation will be meritorious, if we'll be good children and doing the will of Hashem and mitzvahs and Torah mitzvahs, and we'll have not only Torah and mitzvahs, but real ahavat Yisrael, all those mitzvahs, not just keeping Torah, not just keeping Shabbos and kosher, but the kamocha, the gmilut chasadim, the everyone for like feeling responsible for another, really being moser nefesh one for the other. If we'll be living like that, then we will be opening up Shamaim in a way that the Ratzon of Hashem will just bring the Shefa down to us, boom, and that's a miraculous way. And Mashiach could come, it's a Geula. But as long as we're not holding by that level, it's going to be in a natural process, which means we have to go through natural means, step by step. This is how it's done. First, the people have to come to the land, and they have to clear away the swamps and the cholera and the malaria and build it slowly but surely, and make municipal governments and go vote and whatever. Just like they build the infrastructure lat, right? That's how it works. And then build your ruchnias. So we missed the boat for the nest. We missed the boat. Clearly, we're not living in a time where we expect a miracle to happen. Yes.
Didn't you say previously that we'll start building it manually, and then it will come down from Shemayim, with those opinions will come together? Did you
Yeah,
not say
yes,
that?
yeah. Reb Teichel kind of said it, but yeah, he said it somewhere. But again, right. So that's because we're in the time of be'ita and not achishena. Clearly, we're not. Since we're in the be'ita, like it has to be in its proper time. Proper time means natural way of doing things. That means that our hishtadlus of coming to the land and building the land, and also Yerushalayim and the Beit HaMikdash, and then that effort will be matched in Shemaim to reflect that.
Creation of Israel wasn't a miracle.
You're asking me? I think it's all a miracle,
About miracle.
but it's a miracle that also involved governments and votes and UN and wars And so it's a miracle, like Purim was a miracle. Hashem is there all the time, but there's an unfolding of a story that is a cause and effect according to the natural order of how nations function. And in that way, it's not miraculous. Everything that I'm talking to you is a miracle right now. That I can lift this cup is a miracle, but it's embedded. The miracle is embedded in nature. What nature means, I can give a cause and effect that doesn't have to bring God into the picture. Like it could be understood in a pshat if you don't want to see Hashem. It says in that, why? What do you mean? Your brain sent a command to your hand to pick the cup, and so it's not a miracle when you talk about a miracle. That's how it works. That's how we function physically. So as long as we can have, as long as we can fall into explanations according to nature of why things happen, it's not a nes galui. It's not an obvious miracle, and that's what we mean by miracles. Okay, got it? Okay. So, okay. So now we're gonna continue with the second paragraph here. He's gonna bring another refutation of the whole idea that it only has to happen with a miracle, and anybody pushing the geula closer by thinking that they're going to come to Eretz and settle the land, and by that bring about Mashiach. He's going to bring another refutation that's why that's the wrong opinion to hold. Now here he goes into something very fascinating. In the time of Ezra, when Koresh gave the green light to move back to Eretz Yisrael after the Purim story, and the rabbis and the rich people and the people of stature and standing in Bavel chose to remain in Bavel. It's amazing. After 70 years, they already forgot about, and we're like in Israel over 70 years. And we see also that the generation, they don't know from the previous generations, Mesiras Nefesh, of what it meant to come here in the Holocaust. It's like somewhere, and so the people in Bavel, after 70 years, they're already established themselves with their schools, with their yeshivas, with their business. Sometimes we think that they're crazy. It's only 70 years, Sachakol, like you already forgot everything that was in Yerushalayim before, like pick up and go back home. What do you say? But if we look at Israel today, it's a whole culture. There's a tzabar mentality to things, and the generation that grew up in Israel not knowing Chutz La'aretz before, it's its own thing, right? Don't start talking to them about the old country. They can't relate to it. So the Jews of Bavel at that time were in the same position. They were Bavlim. They grew with their institutions there. And so Ezra, who did he move to Israel with? The ones who had nothing to lose. Not the wisest people, not the smartest people, not rich, nothing. They were intermarried and they didn't know Torah for the most part. And they said, okay, it sounds like a nice adventure. We'll follow you, Ezra. And then the Yishuv in Eretz got built by this group. At a certain point, they built Yerushalayim, they built the second Beis HaMikdash. There was a whole Talmud Yerushalmi that developed in Eretz Yisrael as opposed to the Talmud Bavli that developed in Bavel. So we're talking about a time where, and now those people that came with Ezra have done their tshuva. They've given birth to Jewish children who went to the yeshivot, and they're learning Torah, and there's prosperity in the land of Israel once again. Okay. Now there's discussions in the Gemara that speak about the rabbis of Eretz Yisrael using the word hate, the rabbis of Bavel. Why? Because if all of them would have come to Israel with Ezra, the Geula would have been final and fixed and unmovable. But because so many of them stayed in Chutz La'aretz and Bavel, then the Geula was a temporary one that wouldn't have been able to last. So they invited the ones who stayed in Chutz La'aretz, invited the destruction of the second temple. It's on them. This is what Rav Techtel brings, and he has sources to back it up. He's quoting from all over the place, bringing up this point. This was a new point for me when I read this. So I'm going to read it now. Now I said it outside. I'm going to read and translate. עוד אוסיף ממה שמצינו שהייתה שנאה כבושה לבני ארץ ישראל על בני בבל. There was an outright hatred from the people of Israel to the people of Bavel. על מה שלא עלו כולם עם עזרא, that they didn't all en masse come to Eretz Yisrael with Ezra. דאלמלא עלו כולם הייתה גאולה נצחית, because if they would have come, there would have been גאולה נצחית, the final redemption, after which there was no going to be a galus after that redemption. ושנאה זו הייתה נמשכת והולכת מזמן הבניין עד אחר החורבן. And this hate was throughout all the tkufa of Bais Sheni. From the beginning of it till after the Churban. And he quotes the Tosfos on the Gemara Menachot. ותוספות יום טוב שם, he says, לתלמידי חכמים בארץ ישראל היו שונאים את בני בבל. על כן היו קוראים בשם גנאי אותן בבלים. That's why they had a kind of a diminutive nickname for them. They would disgracefully call them the Bavlim, not rabbi or anything. They would just like dismiss them, the Bavlim, like from Bilbul Dat, from Bavel, from Bilbul Dat. Okay, this is kind of harsh. They claim that they did things that are not so kosher. I'm not gonna. It doesn't matter. I don't fully understand it. I could quote it to you and it sounds harsh, but I can't unpack it well enough for you. Whatever it is, okay? Making very bad accusations about them. And this is at the time when the Beis HaMikdash, the second one, was standing. And after the destruction, Reish Lakish in Masechet Yoma, דאמר לריש לקיש לרבה בר חנה אלקה סנינה לכו. Reish Lakish said about Bar Chana, who was in Bavel, Reish Lakish is in Eretz Yisrael, I hate you. These are the words, like this is the expression. And Rashi says there's, I hate you and I hate all of, like you're just representative of all of those who remained in Bavel in the time of Ezra. That you prevented the Shechina from resting on the Bais Sheni, because most of the Jewish people remained in Bavel. And the Shechina to rest en masse, you have to have most of the people in Eretz Yisrael. דכתיב אם חומה היא נבנה עליה טירת כסף, ואם דלת היא ניצור עליה לוח ארז. He's quoting from Shir Shirim. If you would have come with Ezra, if your love for Eretz Yisrael would have been that great, and followed Ezra, Im chomahi, if you would have been like a wall, like a sturdy wall, he nivna, and then that the Beis HaMikdash would have been like a sturdy structure that's compared to kesef, like silver that never tarnishes, and it would have been remained forever. Vimdelati. But if you're weak in your resolve and you didn't all come en masse, and you're like a door, not like a choma, not like a tremendous wall, but you're more like a door, and a door to open a door. It's explained here. What do you mean by a door? Like a door that you open with like two doors, like French doors, you know, like you open one door and then you open up another door for the full opening of the door. If you're doing it halfway measure, only some of you came and some of you didn't, and half the door remained closed and some of you came, then it's not like kesef that doesn't tarnish. It's more like nitzor alei luach aras. It's more like, now this is a question that I have. It's going to be more like cedar, but cedar we know. What do we know of cedar? Cedar chest. Yeah, wood. It doesn't bend. It doesn't bend, but it also protects things from mold. And so I don't know why that is like a good example here. I have to dig into the Shir HaShirim, but wood eventually rots. Although we know that cedar, I don't know. Maybe the cedar rot, maybe it does. If you would have all come in the time of Ezra, you would have been compared to kesef, that there's no tarnish and no rikavon, no rotting. And the gula would have been fixed. But now that you have come up like doors, like yes, open, not open, sometimes not open. You are compared to a cedar, that rot rules over it. So I have to look up cedars. Okay. That means that you've already from the outset decided that it's going to be destroyed because you remained outside. And same, so just like we missed out, the Jewish people missed out in the time of Ezra, and the Gula Shlema could have happened. He's saying it's the same thing happening now. Please understand that what we heard about how the approach of the Eretz Yisrael Jews, what their opinion about the Bavlim, that they stayed in Bavel and they didn't come, and it's the rabbis that are saying, you prevented the Geula from taking root. You who stayed in Chutz La'aretz. So please, you who are still holding to this opinion that we have to remain in Chutz La'aretz until Mashiach, understand that this is holding back Mashiach. It's not bringing about Mashiach. It's going against it. Because the Balaam are the ones, clearly, according to the sources, and he's bringing the Yavets here and everything, and that they lengthen the Galus. And he brings more examples of Rav Chia. I'm not going to go into all of this. Rav Zera, Rav Ich, it's all the same point that he brings about. And also this brought a machlokas between the Eretz Yisrael Jews and the Bavli Jews. And if the opinion is that we have to wait for a miracle for Mashiach to come, and you're saying staying in Chutz La'aretz is the thing that's going to bring about the miracle, maybe you have it wrong. Maybe that what needed to bring about the miracle that boom, Mashiach is going to come, is that what's preventing the ness is your sin of staying in Chutz La'aretz. You're right. It could have been, you say, in the time of Ezra, it would have been an appropriate thing for Hashem to do with a miracle. Garam. It's a Gemara also. Why didn't Hashem do a miracle in the time of Ezra? Hachet garam. It's a phrase. The sin caused it. What caused it? What's the sin? That you didn't all move back with Ezra. That's one opinion. That's what there's a whole discussion. Which sin? Which sin are the Bavlim holding by that prevented the miracle of Mashiach from coming? Clearly, it's the sin of not coming to Eretz Yisrael. Okay. והשת לשיטת הגאון, ולא בראשון המלכים, מה היה חטאם של דורו של עזרא? So if you're following this logic, that according to the people, the ones who are holding the opinion that Mashiach is only going to come through a nes, and not through Rishyon HaMelachim, through the permission of governments, of the Goyim. So what was the sin of the generation of Ezra? According to that opinion, Ezra followed Rishyon HaGoyim. There was a Goy king that says, I'm giving you permission to go back to Eretz Yisrael. You're going to say that Ezra sinned? By following the natural order of things and not in a miraculous way? How could you say that about Ezra?
Situation didn't want a miracle in that way.
Everyone agrees that the generation of Ezra could have merited the miracle, but it didn't. So those who say that a miracle should have brought us to Israel, what prevented it? How do you, whose opinion is that it has to happen in a miraculous way, What prevented it? Ezra went back to Israel. Okay, we have to stop now, and we'll pick this up. We're in the middle of this section 14 of chapter 3, and we'll continue it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Apologies to Ginny.
I'll tell her. Yeah, I don't know what happened. She kept trying it. Just kept saying another meeting. Is in
I don't
progress."
see, Judy,
Yeah.
you did ask you, because you did also was not able to, I don't know why you did just not here. She asked me for the Zoom link. What, Judy? I don't know, you're on mute.
I tell you what, I figured out that if I don't go pick this up on Google, but go into Safari, then I could get into it. Otherwise, it's not possible for me. I don't know if somebody else to
It's
get
the
into your
browser.
class.
It's a choice of browser.
Okay,
You're
I'll
using
pass
the
that on
knowledge
to Ginny.
I
Yeah.
don't